Welcome to another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. I'm your host, Stephen Bardo. Hope you guys had as much fun as I had over the weekend. Um, Old school house picnic. The house heads know what I'm talking about. House music festival. It's a music festival. It's like Woodstock. And I got my pedometer on my phone said that I got 14 miles in. Now I did 5 miles of a workout earlier in the day, but then I danced and walked with my son for 9 hours on Saturday and did a little bit more dancing yesterday on Sunday. So hope you guys had as much fun as I did over the weekend. Um, got a nice show today. I know I messed up. I had some technical difficulties with Jamal Walker, the assistant coach from Ohio State last weekend. Hope to bring Coach back to and maybe do it live because I screwed up his interview for some reason. It was a glitch right in the middle of the interview. But today, Joe Crispin, Penn State assistant coach, we'll have an interview with him. We'll talk about the NCAA legalizing marijuana. And then we've got the next five in our top 50. If you recall, we did last week, we did the top five. It is simply alphabetical order. It's not rated in terms of importance. It's just the top 50 players. And so we've got the next five today, and then I'll get to your questions. And don't forget, y'all, this week is the week. Bartle's Breakdown meetups, Champaign on Thursday, Chicago on Friday. We'll get into more of that in a little bit. Ryan, go ahead and hit the intro. Welcome back to another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. I'm your host, Stephen Bardo, and I am really pleased to be joined by a Penn State assistant coach and former Penn State great, Joe Crispin. Coach, how you doing this morning?
Great. Good to be on with you.
Hey, great to have you here, man. For those that don't remember, there was a bucket getter back in Penn State back in the day, and it wasn't John Crispin. You might know John from his broadcasting days and his playing days, but his brother Joe, the gentleman that we're with here today, could fill it up. Joe, can you explain to our viewers how successful your career was after you left Penn State? What did you do and where did you play?
Well, first I would say in defense of my brother, he would argue that if the point guard had allowed him to shoot more, he would have. That's exactly what he would say. So I'll put that footnote in there for him, and I'm sure he'll appreciate that. But I was fortunate enough after playing here at Penn State to spend a year in the NBA, then to get cut by a few NBA teams, played in the minor leagues, and played overseas for 9 years in Greece, Poland, Italy, Spain, Turkey, and Ukraine. A couple years in Turkey, 3 years in Italy. And I was just fortunate with some really good experiences. I mean, naturally, I always tell people my first job was with the 2001-2002 Lakers. So there was nowhere to go but down career trajectory wise, because I was playing, for a couple months there, was on the best team in the world. But I still was fortunate to have some really positive experiences, learned a ton. And about midway through, I realized, I want to coach. And what better way to prepare for coaching than to keep playing and to note all the complaints that I've heard from players over the years about the 20-some coaches I had in 11 years. So now I'm just trying to apply all those coaching complaints that I and my fellow teammates over the years at every level of play. Now I'm trying to apply that golden rule of coach the way you wanted to be coached and trying to remember all those lessons I learned during that time.
Is there one, Joe, that sticks out to you that you kind of come back to on occasion?
Oh yeah, my biggest is let players play. And I had some coaches that were good at it. I had some who weren't good at it. But especially later in my career, in Europe, there's a lot of anxiety, right? You can tell by the soccer matches. You can tell sometimes I think they forget that we're in a basketball game, and I'm like, hey, listen, we're scoring 85 points. It's not like a 1-0 game. Like, this possession's not going to make or break us, man. Relax. But especially as I got later in my career and I just was super confident, I knew who I was. Our team, we had some good teams that I played on. And I just remember thinking, like, my man, coach, if you would just sit down and shut up and get out of the way, we'll win the game for you. Just take your anxiety and go sit down and act like you're not anxious, and we will win by 15. You're getting in our way. And I always viewed it as a player's game, but I think the longer I played and the better I got, it was kind of like, you're paying me to do this.
That's right.
Just let me do what you're paying me to do. I'll run your team. You might not always understand what's going on. I'll make some bad plays, but in the end, we'll win. We'll reach our goals. And that's my biggest thing, right? Is like winning and losing, letting players play. And people talk about, how you do that. It is hard. But I think just because I played so long in a variety of situations, you naturally need some structure, you need some clarity and good education. But when the lights come on, that's the time where the players get to shine and show what they can do.
Coach, I love that example that you shared, because it seems as though it blends in perfectly with what Mike Rhodes, head coach at Penn State, and your staff would want to do. I noticed that. I'll take Zach Hicks, for example. He really struggled to start the year, couldn't find his way, and then all of a sudden things clicked, and boy, he really played some of his best basketball down the stretch. Is that one of the main philosophies that Coach Rhodes tries to impress with his players?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I'm here, right? I always tell people, if it wasn't, I wouldn't be able to be here, right? Because that's how strongly I feel about it. Just from a personal standpoint, like, I know that's what I stand for personally. Like, that's just what I'm going to live and die with the rest of my coaching life. And so when I first talked to Mike and we're talking that same language, I'm like, yeah, I can get on board with that anywhere, but especially here at Penn State, at my alma mater. And that's what he preaches, right? Is he's strict with the guys and he's going to push them, but he's pushing them with the understanding that when the lights come on, it's your game. And I think players are willing to put in the work and, be diligent and work hard on their game when they know they're going to have a chance to do it in live play, right? It's tough to convince players to work on something when you're not going to let them do it when the lights come on. But he does, and we do, and we encourage that. And, philosophically, we think that's, number one, it's fun, right? Mm-hmm. And number two, it's dangerous, right? And we like to say it's dangerous to both teams. It's dangerous to the opponent because they really don't know when Zach Hicks is going to come flying down the court and let that thing loose. But it also could be dangerous to us when we're stupid about it and overly aggressive. So teaching guys, how to be aggressive without stupid and walking that line. I think Zach's a great example because he came in as a transfer. He made a bunch of threes, but they were at, they didn't have a ton of success as a team. And naturally you're moving up a level where the scouting report's higher and everything's more difficult. But learning, I was just really proud of Zach. He grew in his tolerance for missing. And I told him that from the beginning, from the summer on. I said, you're playing for you're playing for Coach Rhodes, who's letting you play. I'm preaching offense to you, and there's no way in the world you're going to get up enough shots to miss as many as I did, right? Like, the tolerance for missing is the key to making and being a dynamic scorer. And a lot of people underestimate that. And I think Zach struggled at the beginning of the year, and I kept telling him, here's your chance, man. This is your chance to grow in this tolerance and to say, this doesn't define me. I'm not afraid of continuing to miss. I don't care. My coaches are behind me, and I'm going to let loose. Not to mention, the beauty of it was we didn't have any other choice. You're on the court. Right. So we got no choice this year, buddy. Go for it. And his numbers in the second, I told him, like, his numbers in 2023, not very good. His numbers in 2024, very good. And the other thing we said to him and all our guys, especially offensively, was that's normal. You got this whole new group together. We're trying to put it in the crock pot. We can't put it in the microwave and just, here it comes popping out 60 seconds later. That's not how this kind of style of play works. Yep. It takes time. You put it in the crock pot, you let it cook. You add some ingredients here, you take some ingredients away, and then you end up with something good. And he's a good example of that for sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you're starting to understand why Joe is one of my favorite coaches in the league, because early on when I was calling some Penn State games, I was misinformed by the approach. And Joe was kind enough to pull me aside and kind of explain the tolerance for misses. That is such a great phrase that we don't generally hear a lot of. But when Joe explained it to me, then I came back the next time and watched Penn State play. It's like, okay, that's what makes them dangerous. Being able to cut loose and let it fly. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, it's a different approach. I used to always say to coaches when I was still playing, especially I had a lot of friends in coaching, and this was before. I like to say that I played the way a lot of people are playing today before it was cool. And I had a high school coach that I think understood it, and I understood it intuitively. And I used to argue with some of my friends who were in coaching while I was still playing, where they would say, hey, the best way to make more shots is to take better shots. And I would always say, no, it's to take more. And of course, both sides were overstating their argument. But I totally understand efficiency and all those different things. But I said, it's always been in basketball a battle between quality and quantity.
Yep.
And, in any given game, we emphasize quality, but quantity is also important. And a free conscience is really, really important. The emotional side of the game, knowing how to ride the waves, right? Teams are going to make runs. We always talk about it. Oh, they're going to make runs. Well, so what? Yeah, they made their run. We make ours. We shrug it off. We keep playing. It's a long enough game. And we'd always say that the only thing you can't do is freak out. And the only thing you can't do is take shots you're not sure about, because those probably won't go in either. So, philosophically, like you said when we were talking, right, there is a method to the madness. And part of that madness is defense, right? The way we play defense and the way coach teaches defense. And Jamal Brunt does a great job there. And us learning how to combine those things. So in any time, just from a player standpoint, there's a learning curve there, but also from a coaching standpoint, there's a learning curve there, because they're all interconnected and developing that philosophy offensively. But, when push comes to shove, I believe aggressive players win, right? Yep. And coach preaches that defensively and offensively. We're on the same page of that. And an aggressive mindset is going to lead you to take some ones that you're going to question. But as long as you adapt a way of playing that allows for it or that benefits from it, right, that isn't fragile and says, oh, shoot, we took one or two bad shots, that's the end of the world. Not here, right? And, as you know, when you can say that and mean it, players respond. And, I tend to think those recruiting conversations are easier too.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Joe, I go back to my own playing days at Illinois, and I had a very restrictive coach who thought the point guard really wasn't supposed to be looking to score the basketball. And, some of my teammates came back later on after we were finished playing and said that kind of hurt our overall approach and me not being aggressive. So yep. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you're starting to understand why Mike Rhodes and his staff won more games in their first season at Penn State than I believe any other coach that's come through Penn State. The style of play, they're going to let their guys, they give them confidence and put them in positions to be successful. And then on the defensive end, they get after your ass. Yep. And they create opportunities that way. So it's a unique style of play, but it's one that I've grown to really respect and love covering you guys in these games. And so, let's talk about this season a little bit and some of the guys that you're bringing back. You're bringing back 60% of your scoring, and these 5 guys that are coming back. Obviously, Ace Baldwin Jr., reigning Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. You're talking about DeMarco Dunn, Puff Johnson, Nick Kern, and Zach Hicks. Now, let me say this before I let you talk about these guys. I'll take Nick Kern every day of the week and twice on Sunday, man. I love that kid. He's one of my favorite players in college basketball. But can you talk about these guys coming back and what you're expecting out of them over the summer in terms of improvement?
Well, number one, they're all guys that we were so excited to have back, right? And of course, Ace is the obvious one, but all of them are good players. They're good guys. They were willing to sacrifice to set the foundation, right? Coach preached that from the beginning. Naturally, 2 of them came from VCU, and Ace and Nick. And all of them are they want to win, right? They wanted to come in and change things here and start something, build on what Mike and the crew had done before, but build on that, but also start something fresh, knowing that we were going to have a little different, not a lot of different identity from a basketball perspective, and they bought into that. And number two, last summer, they didn't know what in the world we were talking about. We'd have these conversations, and I remember saying to Ace, like, you didn't know what I was talking about till maybe December, right? In terms of just how this worked, right? Because even though defensively we were doing a lot of the same things, it looked a little differently because coach was adopting a more aggressive offensive outlook, quicker shots. So it did change some things, and it took time to get used to. But understanding that there's a method to the madness, and understanding how it works, and understanding how important the things that we're preaching are to these guys, and that aggressive mindset, they've internalized those things, right? They believe in what coach is teaching. And it's one thing to believe it. They believed it before, but it's another thing to see it work in live play and real games, even if we weren't as loaded, right? And we weren't. We were competitive. We were there. It works. It's disruptive, and it's disruptive on both sides of the ball. It's disruptive on offense, and it's disruptive on defense. And that's what we're trying to be. We're trying to be that team that you don't want to play, right? That other players kind of like, oh, I like that, but geez, this is disruptive. That's part of the fun. So you have 5 guys from a language standpoint understand what we're saying, right? And 2 who have internalized the values and understand, hey, this works. And they're the ones now in the summer when these guys are playing saying, no, we do this and look here and do that. We had a lot of guys looking side-eyed at each other last summer, and even in September. So when you have leaders like that who want to win and who are bought in on coach's vision and what he's teaching, it certainly sets a good foundation. And then we've added, we think, a really good group around him of good guys, good players, and we're excited for him.
So speaking of some of the newcomers and transfers, Kachi Nzi, did I say that right?
Yep.
From Xavier?
Yep. Sure.
6'8", 230. What do you expect from the Darby, Pennsylvania native coming back home?
Yeah, he's a beautiful athlete, skilled player. I still think he's got a ton of upside, like to grow, and that was one of our big things just when he was transferring, is just that we think our style of play will enable him to grow, right? As a player, shooting the ball, I think he's a multiple position guy, can defend multiple positions, but he's also physical and athletic and can play around the rim. So we're super, super excited for Kachi. And the other thing is Kachi smiles every day. And, from my perspective, I always say happy players are better offensive players. I always say you come on offense, you can make somebody miserable, but on defense, you can make somebody miserable, but on offense, you better be happy. And Kachi's that guy every day.
Oh, that's great. I look forward to seeing him play. I love that. I love that positive energy. What about Yannick Conan Niederhausen? Did I say that right? The 7-footer from Northern Illinois?
You got to work on your Dutch there, I think. But Yannick, super talented kid, right? Big kid, skilled, grew up in Europe. So a lot of those guys, but he's physical, he's athletic, and he showed some things at Northern Illinois where he transferred from that Midwest area. So we're excited for him because he just knows how to play. That's one of the things we talk about with all these guys is I always felt like the greatest compliment you can give guys is, you remember when you go to the city, you go to this playground or go to the city or go to the suburbs and the guys would say, man, that guy knows how to play. Yep. I'd say that's the best compliment you can get. And with all these guys, Yannick included, he just knows the game, right? He knows how to play. So I think his future is really bright.
I mean, he put 27 on Central Michigan, and I think that was a variety of the ways that he was scoring. Is he able to face up a little bit as well, Coach?
Yeah, you'll see that. You'll see that early on. He's a basketball player. I think all these guys, you're going to see them do multiple things, which again is what Coach is preaching, that you get the chance to do that here, right? He's shown he can. That's going to be important to his future, and that's what he's going to do. That's what all of them are going to do.
Another wing that you bring in, a kid that I was high on that came in from Nebraska, Eli Rice. It looks like he's now 6'8", shot 37% from 3 last year. What are your expectations of Eli?
Yeah, I think Eli's a great kid. Really, as you said, can shoot the ball and was just getting started. And he was in a situation there with Nebraska, just that he had so many old guys,
Yep.
right? And that's the tough dynamic. Like I think he played well. I think it was a good situation, but he had so many old guys in front of him. He didn't get as much opportunity to show what he can do. And again, that's where the coach talks about that opportunity piece all the time, right? Even in the way we play is giving more opportunity in terms of possessions and shots and being aggressive. And I think Eli's going to really benefit from that because he's a really talented kid and a great kid.
And here's a player to me that could be an X factor for you guys and could be an X factor for the conference. I think he has that much upside. This young man, Freddie Dilion, did I say that right?
Yep.
From Tennessee. Can you share with our viewers he's a former top 50 recruit out of high school. I mean, what's his upside?
Yeah, long guard, talented. I mean, obviously, right? He was on one of the best teams in the country last year, right? And again, I don't think they played a little slower style of play, so there wasn't as much opportunity there for him to get on the court and might have ran into an injury or an ankle sprain or whatever it was early in the year. So, when you're a freshman, sometimes you end up with that odd man out, but we're super excited for him, right? And I think all these guys, like Freddie's super talented. They're all super talented. But anytime you come from a transfer situation, we always say, like, well, you got to have some rehab time, right? Where you find that game again and that confidence and like, oh, this is how you play, right? And that's no knock on where they came from. But usually when you're a younger player, you're playing in a more limited role. And then you come here and it's like, oh, you think it's easy to just hop right in and roll the way we roll. But it's going to take you a little bit of time. So I think that's all of them are experiencing that already. And naturally, there's no rush, right? It's the summertime and every team's just kind of figuring it out and getting to know each other. But that's where Freddie is. And I mean, all four of them we're super excited about. Tons of upside, good guys, love the gym, work hard, do all the things that coach is preaching and buying in. And then they're figuring it out, being around the guys who did it last year, of kind of how it all fits and works together.
And Coach, so you guys come in for your first year last year. What were your initial impressions of the Big Ten Conference, and how, with what you learned, what can you take advantage of moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, for me, I've followed the Big Ten closely since I've came to the Big Ten, right? And then having John, as you know, working with you guys, like watching all those games and critiquing him. So I was watching him even closer when I was texting him in between TV timeouts, telling him he missed something. I was watching these games closely. So, there wasn't much of a surprise in my mind personally, but I think there's an experiential element for our entire staff, for coach and for the staff and for the players. I talked to the whole group in October just about what the Big Ten is really all about, right? 20 conference games plus a tournament, how competitive it is, the margin for error, it's like 1.7 points difference in average per game, and the physicality, the scouting reports, everybody knows everybody and everything. And, if you don't show up one night, then you're going to get beat, and you give away a TV timeout, you're probably going to get beat. It's physically and emotionally exhausting, and big crowds, right? Always top crowds in the country, travel, the whole nine. We went through it all. And I think that really did prove to be the case, right? Guys were like, whoa, this is no joke, right? Yep. So you got guys coming from the A10 or the American or whatever. There were nights off. There's no nights off, right? And people would have thought we were a night off. We were anything but a night off.
Correct.
And we used to always say, I think I said it to Coach multiple times. Like, Coach would say disappointing, and I'd say, but not surprising. Like, it became one of those things, like we would just say back and forth. Like, none of these guys have done it before, right? They haven't played in these games before. There was one night we were struggling, and I was like, it was early in our Big Ten, and I realized, like, oh, I was the only one who's ever played in this game before. Well, that ain't going to help us, right? That is not going to help us at all today. And, the players have to go through it to experience it. And now they know. So now Puff Johnson knows, and Ace Baldwin knows, right? And there was a lot on Ace's shoulders last year. All these guys know. So anytime you're playing with guys who have been there before, I think there's an advantage. And we're talking about 5 guys who really did play and contribute. So it's going to make a big difference for us going forward.
So, Coach, as we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't mention that you would like me to mention here before we wrap up?
Well, that's a good question. I think just in general, you do a great job being an advocate for the Big Ten. And, one of the things that we talk about and coaches talked about often is wanting to help the conference. And I think the conference has done this with adding the teams from out west, but just in a diversity of play and the dynamic up and down nature, that we want to bring. We think it's good for players. We think it's good for the conference. And I think it makes for more fun basketball for the guys calling the games like yourself. And hopefully it helps our teams in the NCAA tournament in the Final Four, because that's where we all want to get to.
Well, Coach, thanks so much, man, for joining. This was great. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard from Penn State assistant coach Joe Crispin, former Penn State great player Joe Crispin. Thanks so much for joining me on Bardo's Breakdown today, man. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Welcome back to another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. I'm your host, Bardo, and there we go. All right, there we go. That was thanks again to Penn State assistant coach Joe Crispin. Great interview, really good feedback. And I think, guys, in years past, I would go and try to get the head coaches. And I think as we get closer, maybe there might be a window to try to get some of the head coaches on. But the assistant coaches are really, they have, not that the head coaches don't, but the assistant coaches can give you certain insight and things about players and little tidbits about style of player, what their program is looking to do. And I thought Joe Crispin this week, along with Jamal Walker with Ohio State last week, they did a really good job of explaining kind of the nuances of what these programs are looking to do. So I really thank the Big Ten assistant coaches that are that have joined us, that are going to join us moving forward as we get through the summer and into the fall. So thank you again to Penn State assistant coach Joe Crispin. All right, moving right along. Let's see here. Let me make sure I take that out so I don't mess up and hit something inadvertently. This would have been music to my ears back in college. Marijuana is no longer a banned substance with the NCAA. They made this move, and quite frankly, with the legalization of this across the country, not obviously in every state, but it's moving that way. I think this is a good move. I was talking to one of the coordinating producers years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, and he said, Stephen, this is going to be kind of like drinking on college campus. You get a citation or whatnot, but the legalization of it will go away. And so it's good to see this. And not that I advocate abusing anything, but I think that there's enough research out there, especially at the NBA level, of what cannabis does in terms of relaxation post-game, in terms of if you were to poll a lot of NBA players and they're trying to come down after an NBA game in which college players, if they play 35 minutes, I believe they run 3.5 miles. NBA players, if they play, 40 or 48 minutes, they run like almost 4.5 miles a night when you play. And to be able to come down after a game without the use of hard liquor, which is, kind of it dehydrates your system, first of all. Second of all, the side effects can be rough. Whereas cannabis, whether it's ingested, smoked, if it's infused with different things, can bring athletes post-workout or post-game, bring them down a lot easier without the side effects of hard liquor. And so I think this is a good move. And I think that it can really allow the NCAA to focus, and the member institutions to focus on things that are illegal. And obviously marijuana is illegal in certain areas, but it falls along the lines of alcohol, in my opinion. And so I like this move by the NCAA, and they're trying to do everything they can to stay relevant. So this is one of the measures that I wanted to bring up that I thought was interesting. Okay. All right. Now, Ryan, you want to bring up the graphic for our next 5? We did 5 last week. We've got our next 5. Kent Benson. Hold on. Let me move this. Kent Benson, Quinn Buckner, Boo Buie, Calbert Chaney, and Joe Barry Carroll. All right. So first off, we're looking at Kent Benson, who was a 1976 NCAA champion with the Indiana Hoosiers. That was the last undefeated. Oh, was it? Yeah, I think it was the last undefeated team in college basketball to win a national championship. Last undefeated team at the high major level. And Kent Benson was the MVP of that 1976 NCAA tournament. Also a 2-time All-American. So Kent Benson on this list. Indiana fans should be happy today because we got 3 Hoosiers in the house. Quinn Buckner of Indiana, 1976 championship, along with Kent Benson. They were teammates at Indiana on that magical run, that magical undefeated season and run to the national championship. Was 2-time first team All Big Ten, and then he was the number 7 pick of the 1976 NBA draft by the Milwaukee Bucks. Next up, we have Boo Buie recently. You guys remember Boo Buie? Come on now, all the Northwestern love, All-American. Came in giving folks slight headaches at first because he really didn't want to listen. Had some growing pains, but boy, did he mature into a heck of a ball player. And guys, here's the thing. If Boo Buie can get to the right situation in the NBA, I think he can make somebody's team. We know how good he is. I mean, and he was a huge integral part to what the Northwestern Wildcats have done the last 2 seasons, guys. Let's not sleep. Northwestern has had as much success as a lot of teams in the Big Ten. They were 3rd last season. They were 2nd 2 seasons ago. They've been to the NCAA tournament, the 2nd round, twice, consecutive seasons. And Boo Buie was a huge part of that. So from the fact of him carrying a heavy load, the fact that he led Northwestern in their golden era, right now is Northwestern's golden era, and he's the golden child of the golden era. Boo Buie, one of our top 50 players ever in the Big Ten. Next up, Joe Barry Carroll, the big fella from Purdue, led the Boilers to the Final Four in 1980. That was the last time Purdue had been to the Final Four up until last season with Zach Edey and company. You got first team All-American. He was the number 1 overall pick with the Golden State Warriors in the 1980 NBA draft. And Joe Barry Carroll, I believe, is a very talented artist, creative guy, and a heck of a ball player. And last but certainly not least, obviously the top scorer in Big Ten history, top scorer in Indiana history, National Player of the Year, Big Ten Player of the Year in 1993, went on to have a heck of an NBA career. Calbert Chaney could fill it up in a phone booth, ladies and gentlemen. Smooth lefty wing. Thank goodness me and Kendall only saw him for his freshman year because, man, he was a handful and a great guy. And is on the bench, on the staff with Indiana right now. And I love visiting with Calbert Chaney. He's a great, great guy. I know you guys hear me say that a lot. I'm not exaggerating when I talk about the goodness of the man that is Calbert Chaney. But, boy, when you see him, he still looks like he could give you 30 with barely stretching. Calbert Chaney of Indiana rounds off our second group of 5 of the most of Big Ten's top 50 players of all time. All right. So Ryan, my producer, did a great job on these graphics. I appreciate you, Ryan. Hold on, wait a minute. Okay. So we got through that. Ooh, where are we here? I'm losing something. There we go. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. I need an assist every now and then, even though I'm the point guard. Quick reminder, guys, we're at that time. So Thursday, swing by Neal Street Blues, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. We're going to have some hors d'oeuvres. People in Neal Street Blues are hooking y'all up with a little hors d'oeuvres. We'll have drinks, and we'll just get a chance to chop it up and connect. So I hope to see you all who are in the Central Illinois area at Neal Street Blues, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. In Champaign this Thursday. And then this Friday, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., Theory Sports Bar here in Chicago, Hubbard Street, downtown Chicago. If you're in the Chicagoland area and you're part of the tribe, the inner circle that is Bardo's Breakdown, would love to see you. So make sure you guys show up. Thursday, Champaign, Neal Street Blues. Friday, Theory Sports Bar here in Chicago. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys. We're going to have some fun, okay? All right, let's get to your questions here. AVPDS, what's your top 5 Big Ten teams? Preseason right now, I'd have to throw UCLA, Oregon, Illinois, Purdue, and that last one's tough. I would put, hold on. The reason I put Oregon and UCLA up front because those are the Pac-12 teams that I like, and I'm going to give you 7. I'm not going to give you 5. Oregon, UCLA, Illinois, Purdue, Michigan, Northwestern, Indiana. And I kind of want to throw Ohio State in there, but I like Northwestern over Ohio State because they returned 4 of their top 6 players. But Ohio State could be in the mix, so that would be 8. So that would be my top. Would be my top teams. Thank you, AVPDS. That's right, Mark Thomas. House music rules forever, baby. That's right. Anybody that knows house music knows about the house picnic here in Chicago. It's world-renowned house festival, and I dance my you-know-it off. Had a great time. What's going on, Chad Alt? Looks like TSJ is off to a good start. By end of season, how many teams might have wished they didn't pass? Didn't he go 27? Yeah, he did, Chad. But then the NBA is political as well. And those front offices, they didn't want to touch Terrence Shannon with a rape charge. It's just not, it's politically not feasible to even consider that. And once he was cleared, then teams in the back end of the first round were able to look at him. But from a holistic franchise perspective, those teams couldn't touch Terrence Shannon Jr. I wish they would have, because they would have gotten a steal. He might end up being the steal of the first round. And it was obvious from his first game. I believe he scored 25 points in his first game in the Las Vegas Summer League for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I think that's a harbinger of good things to come for Terrence. Mark Thomas, are you trying to be Captain Obvious? I think you said the same thing on YouTube. It's obvious that these teams and players didn't play in the Big Ten. But there's a method to my madness, Mark. I'm trying to welcome these new members into the Big Ten Conference, right? It's obvious Kareem didn't play in the Big Ten. It's obvious Reggie Miller didn't play in the Big Ten. Bill Walton. Christian Welp. It's obvious. But they're in my top 50 anyway, okay? So there's a method to my madness. Rock with me, Mark. Rock with me. Let me see. Hoop Baller Scoop. Summer League going on. It started in Cali and Utah, and now it's in Vegas. How do you think Terrence Shannon Jr. and Zach Edey are doing? Wonderful. Zach Edey had a great first game. He had a double-double and got that wasn't the Las Vegas Summer League. I think that was another. But the first game when Memphis was playing in the Summer League, Zach Edey had a double-double and had the game-tying tip at the buzzer to send the game into overtime. And Terrence had 25 in his first game. So both of them had great debuts with their respective teams. Hey, what's up, Kirk Ridberg? Joe was the guy you hated on the court playing against your team, but would love to have him on your team. There's no doubt about it. Joe was relentless. You guys go look up Joe Crispin on YouTube. Dude could fill it up, man. My business partner that lives in the DMV out in the DC area, he grew up in New Jersey, and he saw Joe Crispin. I think it was Al Harrington. I think he was playing Al Harrington's team or something. Crispin gave that team buckets. I believe he gave him 40, something like that. Crispin was cold, y'all. He could really, really play. Carol Popo, Kent, what's up, Carol? Nick Kern was a huge part of the reason why the Illini lost to Penn State last year. He took it to us. Nick Kern's a dog. He's from St. Louis. He's tough, and he's a guy that I think the reason I like him so much, he reminds me of myself, in that he's defensive first, but he's a gregarious young man. He's fun loving. He enjoys life. He loves getting on the court. He loves his teammates. And he gets in your, you know what? I love Nick Kern, one of my favorite players. Love that young fella. Chad Alt said, the flying line, I got the short lengths correct. Fab Five went too far. Now they seem to have gone back to the mid-'80s length again. Your thoughts? Yeah, Chad, the college basketball apparel is cyclical. And, it's heavily influenced by what the NBA players are doing, what they're rocking, and what they're wearing. And so we got the baggy shorts based on Kendall Gill's nagging Lou Henson that we needed different, uniforms. And it worked because Lou relented, and we got baggier shorts, and we were kind of trendsetters. The Fab Five got the rep for it, but we preceded the Fab Five in that. So, it's part of college basketball, and it's one of the good things that the fashion can help identify eras of college basketball. That's probably what I like about it the most, Chad. Lulier, John Crispin, his brother, is still on TV. Does a really good job as a color analyst. He's with ESPN now, was with Big Ten Network. John is really, really good, and it's fun to listen to. And Joe, his brother, gave him love right at the beginning of the interview, which he should. That's brotherly love. So I love it. Fly, Illini, fly. What's good, my man? Top 5 Big Ten for me: Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, UCLA, Ohio State. Okay. I like that. I like that 5. Kirk asked, I'm curious to know, how do you go about recruiting transfers in this day and age? Do you look to strictly address your needs, go after best athletes, you go after them, or do they contact you showing an interest? Let me see if I can break this down, Kirk. You definitely want to address your needs. Depending on your style of play, like Oregon loves long, lengthy athletes. That's a Dana Altman calling card at Oregon. It's been that way since he's been out there for the last 17 seasons, I believe. Depending on, again, your style of play, do you want elite athletes, and you go get them, right? Just depends on what you're looking for in terms of your style of play. And then the teams will contact the players or the representative of the players. The teams will go and make their interests known. And so the player will sit back and take and field calls, or if they have somebody that is working with them, that liaison, that go-between person will inform the players of who is interested, and then kind of go through the process. So that's how it goes, Kirk. But good questions. Good questions. Oh, Jay Smith wants an interview with Ayo Dosunmu. It's tough getting NBA guys, y'all. It's tough, especially in their off season. It's easier to get them in season than it is in off season, in my opinion. I'll try. I'll write it down. Jay Smith is something that I'll try, but I'm not going to promise you anything because it's very, very difficult. M. Brotts, marijuana saved our nonverbal, handicapped, autistic son a lot of violent upsets. Guys, M. Brotts is saying something that I don't know if a lot of people understand. I was in Las Vegas last week for the NBA Retires Players Association. By the way, Scott Rochelle, Aaron, Cameron, the staff at the NBRPA, I thought that was the best conference that we've had. I've been a member for quite a long time, over a decade. I think that was the best conference that we've had. So it was at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Las Vegas. I paneled a discussion. One of the topics was cannabis use, and Derek Coleman, former #1 pick in the 1990 NBA draft by the New Jersey Nets. You Flying Illini fans will remember Derek Coleman of Syracuse, right? Derek relayed a story of why he got into the cannabis business. And he was watching CNN one day, and he watched this family, and their daughter had severe epilepsy seizures. And they lived in New Jersey. And at the time, the only 2 states, I believe, where marijuana was legal was Colorado and Oregon. So this family took their daughter, drove to Colorado, got these cannabis drops, and almost immediately her seizures ceased. This has been happening all over the country, where cannabis drops have been saving children, autistic, kids that have epilepsy, kids that have sickle cell. Derek Coleman's younger cousins both had sickle cell anemia. He would go visit them at the doctor's office. They were getting morphine drips. And Derek Coleman, if y'all know Derek, you would love Derek Coleman. He does not mince his words for anybody. He's relaying the story. He pulls the doctor out, and he's asking the doctor questions. He's like, why do you have them on a morphine drip? These boys are 11 and 13 years old. You're turning them into drug zombies. Why do you have them on morphine drip? And one of the things, if you know anything about sickle cell anemia, is that sickle cell is really a pain management situation. Sickle cell is very painful. And so Derek Coleman contacted a dispensary that was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, went and talked to the lady about what was going on with his 2 cousins. This woman gave him patches, and she told them to put him on the areas of the body where the medical staff at the hospital weren't going to look. So behind the kneecaps, in the lower back. And Derek was putting them in the spots that the lady told him, right? His cousin, one of his cousins, called him a couple days later and says, what was in those patches? Because I'm feeling better. I'm not in as much pain, and my body is moving better. Like, I couldn't move my leg very well, but I can move my leg better. There's thousands of cases like this across the country. So kudos to the NCAA for taking marijuana off the banned substance list. And thank you for sharing that in, Bryce. That's very important information that I like to pass along. So thank you for that. Wish that was in place back in the day for some of our early mid. Why do you, Kirk? You think it would have made him play better? It probably would have. For me, cannabis is anxiety. I have anxiety issues from time to time. Cannabis helps me with those. I'm gonna be honest, because I'm a high strung dude, very high strung. Still am. I still have the energy. I still have the competitive desire and drive that I had when I was playing. And so sometimes if I don't work out enough, if I don't meditate, if I don't pray, if I don't do my routines, I get anxious. Like during the season when I'm calling games, I'm moving around, I get very anxious because if I'm out of sync and I'm not doing I have a set routine that I do every morning that kind of gets my mind soothed and in place. But if I don't do that, I get kind of walky and crazy. And cannabis helps with my anxiety levels. And so, it might have helped me as a player if it was legal when I was playing. Who knows? But that's a good one, Kirk. Bo, I don't think Team USA is going to have too much issues. Spain will push them a little bit. France will push them a little bit, and Canada will push them a little bit, but I think Team USA will be fine. Xavier Andrews, I see that Tyson Walker and Boo Buie are on the Suns Summer League team. I love seeing how Big Ten players do. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Xavier, hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, I think they'll do well. I'm curious to see Tyson Walker because he's going to really have to run a lot of point. So I'm really curious to see what he can do, because for me, Tyson Walker needs to turn himself into a defensive dog. He couldn't do it at Michigan State because he had to carry such a heavy load on the offensive end. But if he can turn into like a, you know what Sam Hoiberg does for the Nebraska Huskers? He comes in the game. He's a bulldog. He changes things up. He stirs the pot. I believe that's what Tyson Walker is going to have to do to stick with an NBA roster. It's going to have to be a defensive guy that can shift things up defensively, but can stick that jumper, which we know he can do. And Boo Buie, again, I don't know if Phoenix Suns will be the right destination, but hopefully both of these guys will perform well enough that another team, if the Phoenix Suns don't feel like they can bring them into veterans camp with a chance to make the team, hopefully someone else will see them, because I think both of these guys in the right situation could find themselves on an NBA roster. If nothing else, a two-way contract. Yep. I agree, Jay Smith. Boo runs that high screen and roll like a pro. I agree. Oh, okay. Kenneth Elif. Great, great move by NCAA. I agree. Calbert Cheney's teams were last great teams Bob Knight had in Indiana. I agree, Curtis Dietz. And man, Calbert, boy, could he play. See you Thursday, Thomas. Looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time. Carol said, I was way too young to remember Kent Benson. Didn't realize he was an All-American. Think he was drafted by the Pistons, was a top 10 pick. Thanks for that added info, Carol. And Kent Benson was the premier big man in the country that year, I believe. I'm almost certain Kent Benson was the premier big man in the nation that season. He was a handful. And I'm not surprised he was a top 10 pick. Curtis Dietz, why isn't there an Illinois team in the basketball tournament this year? I thought they had teams in the past. I'm going to see some games this weekend. Yeah, there's a lot of coordination that goes into that, and you gotta contact people. You got to give them enough time in advance, and you got to find practice time, and it's more than just showing up and playing pickup ball. So there's a lot of coordination that goes into it. So I'm not sure why Illinois doesn't have a team, Curtis. I don't know. John, you can get, yeah, you surely can. Now, are you part of the tribe? John, have you signed up for the newsletter? If you haven't, those that want to be a part of the tribe, go to bardostribe.com and get your free copy of Triple Threat, Stephen Bardo's Guide to Basketball Terminology. Go there, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll be a part of the tribe. And so, John, yes, I can sign what you want if you're part of the tribe. All right. Where are we? Wasn't your 89 team the first team to have a third different color uniform? Yes. We had the orange uniforms, and that was a first. It was weird too to check out, but yes, we were, Curtis. Al Nash says Marcus Taylor led Big Ten in scoring and assists in 2002 or 2003. Was a big fan of his in high school, but I always wondered, you never hear Izzo or Michigan State talk about him. Almost like a blackball. I wonder why. Marcus Taylor? See, now, Al, you got me going. You got me looking up stuff on the show. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I remember Marcus. He was a baller. Second round pick. Number 52. Hold on. Let's see. So Marcus played in Asvel Basket, I think, which is in Turkey. Southern Crescent Lighting, which was probably a minor league in the States somewhere. Vasilakis, which is probably Greece. Albuquerque Thunderbirds, Tulsa 66ers, and then Anaheim Arsenal. So it looks like he was the 52nd pick of the Minnesota Timberwolves in the 2002 draft. He also played with the Wizards in the 2003 Pro Summer League, but it doesn't look like he made an NBA roster. So great call from the past, Marcus Taylor. Thank you, Al Nash. I appreciate that. I don't know if he got blackballed or he just maybe didn't get to the NBA. And a lot of times if players they can have great college careers. If they don't reach the NBA level, then sometimes people forget about them. But thank you for that. Appreciate that, Al. Chad, when Michael Jordan's son Jeffrey came to Illinois, did you ever get a chance to speak with him? Did he ever speak to the team? Yeah, I talked to MJ a few times when he was at games and whatnot, and I'm sure they had him come and speak to the team. But MJ is not like I don't recall him being like that because Marcus played at Whitney Young High School here in Chicago, and it was around the time that my son was playing, I believe. And there was only one time, I think, when he busted into the locker room. I think it was when Whitney Young was trailing during the state tournament, and MJ comes in and he couldn't take it. He came in and got after the team. I think he thought they weren't playing well or something like that. He wasn't criticizing the coaches, but he got after the team, and they came back out and won the game. So, yeah, I did talk to MJ a few times. And I know Michael. I worked out with him in the summers when he was trying to make his comeback. When he left the game, he was coming back. When he played with the Washington Wizards, not the second Chicago Bulls go around, but when he was really retired, he came back and played out, started working out with him then. So I got to know Michael a little bit. Mark, I'm rocking with you too, bro. Because if you house music down, me and you like this, bro. We down like 4 flat tires, bro. House music all night long. Antoine Pitt, what's good, man? Bardo, was it Summer League when you came out? So, Antoine, the Las Vegas Summer League started Friday. I left Friday. I came back here. So we were there during the week, during the USA basketball, some of their scrimmages, and we had a chance to go watch the Canada scrimmage. I didn't go, but we had a chance to go. And so Friday started the Las Vegas Summer League. So I left. I came back here, and it's in full swing as of now. Okay, Dory Pezzerio with some intel on the TBT. Mike LaTulip coached the House of Pain for the TBT in the past. Not interested in putting together new teams. Okay, thank you for that heads up, Dory. Mike LaTulip, you guys need to check it. If you haven't listened to Mike LaTulip join Jeremy Werner on Illini Inquirer, he does a really good job of breaking down Illini basketball, Big Ten basketball. Make sure you check those guys out. Do a fantastic job. All right. Again, reminder, look forward to seeing my tribe members. 5 p.m., 6:30 p.m. Central, Champaign, Thursday, Neal Street Blues. The tribe members, be there, be square, Friday. Tribe members, Bardo's Breakdown, Summer Meetup. Friday, y'all, Theory Sports Bar, downtown Chicago, Hubbard Street, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Be there or be square, tribe members. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, thank you to Penn State assistant coach Joe Crispin for a wonderful interview. You guys have a great rest of your week. Go sign up for that newsletter, guys, because I want to see as many of you all as I can in both of these summer meetups. And until then, holla, y'all.